Well, greetings. This is David Zaitsev, and it's Wednesday, April 22nd. Figured I'd discuss the Tumwater High School Know More group and its recent use of statistics. Together with that, we might also discuss sexual assault, as it's sometimes defined legally and in social sciences, and as it happens to happen in some schools. The reason for this is that April 1st, which is an interesting day, Tumwater High School Know More group placed a video on YouTube trying to apply alleged statistics to rates of sexual assault of girls who allegedly will tend to have a rate of 1/4 of them being sexually assaulted by the time they're 18 or leave high school. They didn't specify by 18, they just said by the time they left high school, but perhaps that's what they could have or should have said. Apparently they brought in someone, gave some presentations, and they produced this video. 1 in 4 girls will be sexually assaulted. And I wrote them and asked them a question. What study says this? And who did the study? When was the study done? And the reasons that I asked these questions were the rate of sexual assault that you have depends greatly on the definitions that you use. And some of you may know or may not know, unwanted touching by itself can often be considered a crime. And in some schools, there are guys, and there are even girls, in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, depends on the grade. They sometimes do fun, teasing things with some of their comrades in school, and some of them may swat the butt of the other guy or other girl. And most people don't mind severely, but some are irritated. And actually speaking legally, that could be considered sexual assault. That could be considered unwanted touching. Now, there are people who go to women in their 20s and say, have you ever had someone touch you in an unwanted or uninvited way for potentially a sexual purpose? The question is, well, when you were in 8th grade and your friend came and swatted your butt, was that uninvited? Well, for some girls it actually was uninvited. Maybe they were even a friend of the person, acquaintance of the person, fellow student in science class or gym class or drama class. Who knows what it was, but you didn't specifically invite them to swat your butt. So there are a lot of girls, there are a lot of women who've said, yes, that's happened. And then a social scientist can say, aha, a lot of these women have been sexually assaulted. A lot of these women have in fact been sexually assaulted in the hallways of schools. And, you know, I asked by email the people at Tumwater High School, does the definition you're using include a girl having her butt swatted? I haven't got any answer yet. And I asked who wrote the study and when was the study done? I haven't got an answer yet. I actually think that they're trying to go by a study produced, it was called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, produced in the 1990s. That one there said that 25% of people before the age of 18 had been sexually abused. It's done by recruiting a large number of women, asking them questions about their experience by the time they were 18, and about 25%, actually it was 24.7%, said that they had had certain experiences that are later defined by the psychologists as sexual abuse. Actually, in that case, sexual abuse includes a lot of cases where it's consensual conduct with someone who's older. And so sexual abuse, sexual assault, they're not the same thing. The statistic that applies to one is not going to generalize to sexual assault. sexual assault is a rarer category than sexual abuse. Because if you're 15 years old and you have sexual conduct with someone who's 18 or 21 or whoever it happens to be, or however old that happens to be, that can be sexual abuse, at least legally speaking. The girl may not think so, but legally and by the social scientist definition, it's considered sexual abuse. The girl may not consider it sexual abuse, but nevertheless, it can be counted as sexual abuse. But that's not the same thing as sexual assault. Usually when people think of sexual assault, they think of someone raping you, or they think of someone grabbing you, dragging you into the woods, fighting with you and attempting to rape you, and maybe you get away, maybe you don't. But actually, going back to our previous example, in the hallways. Now what's interesting is, some people here, I myself, I've watched some of the Victoria's Secret fashion shows. And the Victoria's Secret fashion shows, there's been Taylor Swift and there's been several dozen fashion models. And, I don't know who swatted whose butt first. I don't remember. It's been, a month or two since I watched one of the fashion shows, but, there's this point along and, I don't remember, Taylor Swift made her whap someone's butt, or maybe someone whapped Taylor Swift's butt first. I'm not sure which one it was. But, we don't necessarily know if that was invited or if that was planned. At one point, one of the butt slaps, Taylor Swift says, "Awesome." So probably Taylor Swift is not going to file a police report. But, if that had happened in 8th grade, and you didn't say awesome, and you were a girl, and you're surveyed by the scientist 10 years later, have you ever been felt or touched in a sexual purpose, with a sexual purpose, or in a sexual manner? You might have said, well, yeah, there was Tony Slovic, and in 8th grade, he was one of the guys that swatted people's butts, and he got me. Does that mean that she was sexually assaulted? Well, it kind of does, and it kind of doesn't. Legally speaking, it could be made into a case. But, in actual reality, a lot of the rest of us don't regard that as in the same category as what we think of when we think of sexual assault. And there are even lots of girls and lots of women who don't regard that as the same thing as sexual assault, even though legally speaking, and according to the definitions used by the social scientists, wow, I'm sexually assaulting myself. Or girls in the 8th grade, it's hard to say. So, I think there are some problems with the video in terms of the use of statistics. The other thing is that should be noted is that rates of sexual assault, rates of all kinds of sexual abuse of minor girls have been in sharp decline since the 1990s. So it's kind of important to know when was the study produced. That's something we don't know because the people at Tumwater High School, they haven't told us when that study was produced. They haven't told us who did the study. They won't let us read the study. We don't know what definitions were used. We don't know if the rates of sexual assaults have stayed the same, gone down, or gone up since the study was done. If the study was done in 1995 or the year 2000, all the other indications are the rates of sexual assault of young ladies has gone down since that time. Now I want you to know that I care about people being abused. I care about everyone who's in pain. Could be physical pain or emotional pain. I actually go to church. And at times when I'm at church, I meet one of my friends, we're talking, and I say, "What's new?" And sometimes the answer is, "Oh, and I'm getting over umpty-ump." My response is, "Oh, can I pray for you?" It goes like this. And I start praying for them. Now, I pray for people that have cancer. I pray for people that can't get out of wheelchairs. I pray for people who are getting over the flu. I pray for people who do evil things, such as Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden. I pray for people at times who don't have a lot of other people caring for them. At times I pray for the people in North Korean prison camps. I've actually had one acquaintance who, in a work situation, came to work, was sharing with someone else, but I was 2 feet away, and so I was part of the conversation. On the way to work, she'd been walking along, and this guy on a skateboard came along and swatted her butt. she was telling us the story. She wasn't happy. She saw this guy, yelled at him. This guy laughed, went on. She was actually in a little bit of tears. You know, she felt bad. You know, the guy hadn't cared about her feelings. You know, that's sad, and the guy is going to reap a little bit of pain. At the same time, some of the same surveys that are done, when they ask women, did you feel that you were physically or emotionally harmed by one of these types of experiences that took place back in 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade, you were swatted. We're not talking about rape, we're not talking about attempted rape, but all the others. Were you physically or emotionally harmed? It's like 9 out of 10 to 10 out of 10 say, you know, no, I really wasn't harmed. And in fact, I didn't consider it a crime, I didn't report it. I didn't consider it a crime, I didn't report it because I wasn't harmed and I didn't consider it serious. Now, I'm not saying it's not a problem for some people. It is a problem. Apparently, 5% of girls in some jurisdictions, I don't know which ones they are, I don't know if the statistic is still good, but at least a few years ago, 5% of some girls somewhere actually transferred from one school to another to get away from some sort of sexual ongoing harassment of whatever type it was. Now, there's different types of so-called harassment. You know, there's swatting that can be stopped, but then there's, you know, rumors and speaking. Those are harder for the school to stop. It's harder for school to stop gossip than it is to stop this. So 5% of girls moved to a different school because of harassment. My suspicion is the harassment actually was probably verbal, because you can actually find a way to stop this if you try. So, I care about people who are assaulted. I at times pray for them. But I also don't think that it's proper to generalize from a study where we don't know who did the study, when it was done, or what definitions were used. And if Tumwater High School wants to produce such a study, or to use such a study to generalize about the girls in their school, they should let us know what study it is, and if it includes that. Thank you.